This conference will now be recorded.
So this morning I was talking about, actually unfortunately we did not record the meeting this morning, but I hope everyone remembered what are we speaking about. So this morning I'm speaking about when the request comes to the login servlet. So if you want to redirect the request from one servlet to another servlet, you can call the send redirect method on the response object. Then the response will go back to the client. Response will go back to the client, and client will send a new request. Client will send a new request to the server. It's a new request object. So now the home servlet will, because this is the URL pattern. So the request, again the web container handles the request. It comes to web.xml. It comes to web.xml. It will find the URL pattern and find the matching servlet, and again the same process. Correct? I hope everyone remember that.
Yes, Ram.
So then I was also talking about one problem statement. I asked you to design a login page, correct? Did you remember the problem statement that we are talking about this morning?
Yes.
Okay, so did you people try anything for that, or did you people at least try the request dispatch and response to send redirect?
Yeah, Ramji.
Hmm.
I'm using the hyperlink that will work good.
Okay, tell me what should I do?
In that morning, we wrote the tag right out.println. In that HTML tag, we write just anchor tag href equal to login.html file. So it will again go to that HTML file only.
Okay, so you mean to say that in the login servlet, when you're trying to redirect the when you're trying to redirect the response to browser, so you're saying that instead of this home, what do you want to do instead of this home? You want to
If we give wrong name or something, it will go to else condition, right? So that time we will read to again login page, like
by the
anchor
by
tag, right?
this is what you mean. This is the else
I didn't.
condition. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not sharing my screen, right? I'm sorry. Uh, can you see my screen now? So this is the else condition, correct?
Yes, Ramji.
Okay, now tell me what should I do here?
What I am thinking is out dot response dot we have to take pw dot print line of
Hmm.
the tag inside that HTML tag.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Body tag close open and close tags.
Hmm.
So it's in between body a href is equal to login.html file like that.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So we don't want to write again HTML file, right? So if we give wrong username, so then it will come to else phase. So again link, just we click a link, then it will go to login page only.
Once again, what happened? AHF login.html cartoon, right? Mm. Yeah. Now tell me. Yeah. Now you don't want to forward the request to anything, correct? This is what you want to do, correct?
Yes, Ramji.
Okay. But what will
I
you get?
thought like this only.
Yeah. What will you get with this? So you are sending one HTML back to the browser with a hyperlink. Again, you have to click on that link to go to the login page, correct?
Yes, Ramji.
So, for example, if I send http localhost login.html, now username is some wrong username and password is some wrong password. Click on login. What happened? What happened? Why nothing came here? pw.println in the login.html page, form action will login, so /login. So it will come to the login for it for sure. Let me write sort inside else so that the context be reloaded. Let the context be reloaded. The context is reloaded. Let me go and click login.html. So username is wrong username, password is wrong password. Click login. Now let's see whether I got inside else. Yes, I got inside else. But pw.println HTML body tag is closed, HTML tag is closed. PHF, okay, I got it. Because the anchor tag is not closed and there is no
inside the body tag only, you are entering some wrong username, like that we have to write that statement.
Please enter correct username and password. Correct?
So, yeah, I can remove in the login.html file that statement.
Which one? Which one I have to remove?
Login.html file, you wrote one like this statement.
The anchor, you're asking me to remove the anchor tag? Anchor tag?
No, Ramji, in login.html file.
I'll remove that. I'll remove that. Yeah, that's okay. That's fine.
Okay.
You mean this one, right? Yeah, I'll remove this. Okay. So, did everyone understand what she told? She is telling that. So, whenever someone enters the wrong username and password, it will go into the else condition, and in the else condition, she is telling that she will send one HTML back to the browser. This is the HTML she is sending. Please enter correct username and password. And she is telling sending some link, some hyperlink. I already told about what is anchor tag in the HTML classes. Correct. So let me show you now. So login.html. I think I have to remove the cache. Control Shift Delete. Clear the browser data. Clear the cache. Now send the request again. You got this username and password now. You enter some wrong username and password. Click login. Please enter correct username and password, and you're getting login hyperlink. Now you have to click on the login hyperlink to get the username and password, right?
Yes, Ramji.
That's what you mean. But do you this is what I was asking for this morning? I was asking the login page on top of that, because in any website, if you look at any website, this is it is not designed like this, correct? When you enter some wrong username and password, click sign on. You're getting the username and password on the same page. You're getting the error. But here you're telling that you want me to navigate to a different page, correct? So
Yes,
here
Ramji.
I have to click on this login, then I'll go to the username and password, correct or not?
Yes, Ramji.
Yeah, so this is not I'm asking for. I'm not asking for this. I'm asking for same page. You should have the please enter correct username and password, and you should also have a username and password on the same page. So did everyone is everyone following? Is everyone following what she said? Did you understand what she said, Raj?
Yes, Ramji.
So she's sending some response back to the browser. This is the response she's sending back to the browser. She's sending some HTML response because she's writing some response back to the browser using writer object. Using the print writer object, she's writing the response back to the browser, correct? So this is the response she's writing back to the browser. Agreed, everyone?
Yes,
So
sir.
she's sending this, please enter correct username and password, and then she's giving some line break. Then she's creating one hyperlink. This is the link. anchor tag will give the hyperlink. When you click on that link, it will go to the login.html. href will specify you where to go when you click on that link, correct?
Yes.
So that's what she is telling. So let us see that again once again. So when you said this is the first time you are sending the request to browser, request to server from the browser. So the request went to the server and server gave the response. Now you are entering wrong username and password. And when you enter login, this is the second request that is going to the server. Login servlet is called, and inside the login servlet it goes to else condition. Now it is saying please enter correct username and password and click login. So then you have to enter the correct username and password, correct? Of course, this is one of the solution, but this is not the right solution, right? Because in every website, you need not do another action. The user should not do one more action to go to the login page. You are clicking on login button again, login link again to go to the login page, correct? The user has to do one more action. He has to click on that link to navigate to the login page. Agreed?
Yes,
Everyone?
Yeah.
So that's not user friendly. That's not user friendly because user has to do one more action. User has to click on one more link to go to the login page. That's not user friendly. So did anyone else come up with any of the solutions? Okay, now let me talk about the solution. So what I'll do is, yeah, of course, I will use the request dispatcher and forward the request to the login.html page. When I forward the request to the login.html page, that is also not the right solution because let the context be reloaded. So it is forwarding the request to the login.html, right? The request is forwarded to the login.html, agreed? Correct?
yes,
But here
yes,
you are not getting the message, please enter correct username and password, correct? So this is the problem here. You should get the message and you should also forward the request to the login.html. So it means this login.html should have that please enter correct username and password. This is what I was talking about the morning. This login.html should have please enter correct username and password. Then problem with this approach is, so even for the first time you'll get this message, correct?
yes,
Agreed?
Yes,
Everyone.
Swami.
Even for the first time you'll get this message. So login.html, I'm getting this message even for the first time because every time you ask for the HTML, so whatever the content present in the HTML, that content will come back to the browser. So that's a static content, that's a static page. Whatever the content that is present, the content will come to the browser. So I don't want this content for the first time, but I want it only for the second time when someone enters the wrong username and password, correct? It means I have to construct this web page. I have to construct this particular web page in a dynamic way. I need a dynamic web page. For the first time, I don't want that content. For the second time, I want the content when someone enters the wrong username and password. If someone enters the correct username and password, then it should navigate to the home page, correct? Agreed? Is everyone following?
Following Ramji.
Yes, Swami.
Okay. So it means I don't want this static HTML page here for login. What I'll do is, so in the login servlet, I'm commenting all this code. What I'll do here is I'll construct the HTML response.getWriter. I'll get the printWriter object. PrintWriter control Z, control 1. Assign statement to new local variable, print writer object. So now on the print writer object, pw.println, pw.println. So HTML pw.println body. Anything is fine. You can write only in one line, or you can write multiple printlns. So first it will send this HTML tag, then it will send this body tag. So anything is same. Anything is same. You can write in one. You can write only everything in one println method, or you can write multiple printlns. Getting it? Finally, you are sending this particular content to the browser. This particular content is sent to the browser. This particular content is sent to the browser. All these tags are sent to the browser. Finally, it will render the data on the screen. Correct?
Yes.
pw.println. I'll have a form tag. Form action equal to validate. Form action equal to validate. So this is the escape character I have to use. Form action equal to validate. Okay. And method equal to get. Okay. Form tag is closed. Okay. And string is closed. So within this string, this is the form action equal to validate and method equal to get. Okay. Now pw.println. So input type it. Okay. pw.println username. So input type equal to text. Okay. Name equal to username. Okay. Name equal to username. So input tag is closed here, and this is the input type. So now pw.println password into input type equal to password. Input type equal to password. Name equal to password. Okay. So this is the password field. pw.println input type equal to submit. Input type equal to submit. Value equal to login. So input tag is closed and string is closed. This is closed. And now username field is there, password field is there, submit button is there, form tag is there. Form tag has to be closed now. Correct? pw.println. So form tag is closed. So pw.println body tag has to be closed. Correct? Body tag has to be closed. And pw.println HTML tag has to be closed. Any questions here? I constructed the HTML page from the servlet. Not, I don't have a login.html now. I'm constructing the HTML page from the servlet. Okay. Okay. So now form action equal to validate. Now I should have a new URL pattern in the web.xml. So I should have a validate. So I copy this servlet mapping and all those things. And so now here I will have a validation servlet. Validation servlet. com.mypackage dot validation servlet. Validation servlet, and I'll give the name, same name here, slash validate. Okay. Now I should have a validation servlet written here. New class validation servlet. which extends HTTP servlet. HTTP servlet. Now here do get. I'll override the method here. So here I can come copy this thing. In the validation servlet, I'll write that string username, password. Yeah. So login dot now request dot get request dispatcher. What I'll send here is login. Forwarding the request. Now, so I'll stop the server because there are changes in the web.xml. What are the changes you made in the XML file? Those changes will not be reflected in the server if you don't redeploy the application and if you don't restart the server. So you have to remove this application and redeploy the application, restart the server. Then only the changes will be affected. Correct? Again, first application finish. Let me start the server. Are you people able to follow what I'm doing? So now what I'll do is, now you'll understand. I'll send the request http colon localhost colon port number 8090 slash first application slash login. So when I send the request to this login, I'm not sending the request to login.html, I'm sending the request to slash login, correct? Getting it?
Yes.
When I send this URL to server, what will happen? Inside the server, there's a web container which handles this request. It will refer the web.xml and find the matching servlet for this particular URL pattern. What is the URL pattern? After the context path, what is there? That is the URL pattern. So slash login is the URL pattern, right? For slash login, what is the matching servlet in the web.xml? For slash login, it is login servlet, correct? Correct?
Yes.
So the login servlet doGet method will be called. When the login servlet doGet method is called, so then it will send this response back to browser, correct? So when I send this request to server, server will send me this response. Any questions here?
No, Raj.
When I send the request to server, server is sending the response back to me because the login servlet is constructing the response. This login servlet is constructing the response and sending the response back to the browser, correct? Why this login servlet is called? Because the URL pattern is matched with the login servlet, correct? Slash login is matched with the login servlet. So login servlet's doGet method will be called because it's a get request. I hope everyone knows that. I need not repeat that, correct? Please respond.
Yes, Raj.
Please respond, everyone.
Yes.
Yes, Swami.
If you have questions and if you want me to repeat it, I can repeat it. So please don't sit calm. Still 2-3 people only responded. I want reply from everyone. Do you understand this or not? When I send the request to the server, so the login servlet is sending the response back to the browser because the URL pattern is matched with the login servlet. And it's a get request, so the doGet method will be called. I don't know if this is the case, I'll complete this fastly. I know I don't need to take pain if you don't respond. So I'll complete it fastly, whether you understand or you don't understand. So username, now I got the response from the login servlet. So when I enter the username, some wrong username, wrong password, and when I click on login, so what will happen is, because the action equal to validate. So when this is the response went to the browser. So when you click on the submit button, so the validate, the action equal to validate. So the URL pattern is slash validate. So the request goes to the the request is sent to the server. In the server, the web container handles the request. It will check the web.xml and it will check what is the URL pattern and what is the matching servlet. So this validation servlets doGet method will be called because it's a get request. because if you look at this method equal to get is a method equal to get. When you click on the submit button, a new request will be sent to the server, that is a get request. So the do get method in the validation servlet will be called. So in the validation servlet, it is capturing the username and password, and it is checking if the username is Ramjan, password is Java. Then it is redirecting to the home. If it is not Ramjan Java, then it is forwarding the request to the login. Login means /login again. It's not login.html. It's not .html. It's just login. So the URL pattern is /login. So again, it will go to the login servlet. If it is a wrong username and password, again the request is forwarded to the login servlet, and login servlet will send the response back. So let me show you that. When I click on login, I'm null point exception. Validation servlet.java at line number 21. Validation servlet.java at line number 21. Okay, because the parameter that you're sending in the request, if you look at the parameter name is username. Everything is lowercase. But in the servlet, it is trying to get the parameter value for this particular parameter name. Here it's uppercase, right? So there is no parameter with this name. There is no parameter with this name in the request. So get parameter method will return null. So username is null. So on the null, you are calling the equals method. You cannot call the method on the null. You can call the method only on the object. So when you call the method on the null, it is giving null pointer exception at line number 21. Correct?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I should give the name of the parameters correctly. Agreed?
Yes.
Because in the login.html, I gave the not login.html login servlet. In the login servlet, I gave the name of the parameter as username lowercase. Correct?
Yes.
So because when you click on the submit button, so these particular parameters will go along with the request. So the same parameter name and the same parameter name will go along with the request. So the parameter value is whatever you entered in the field. The parameter value is whatever you entered in the password field. So now let me do it from first. So /login. So username is wrong username, wrong password. When I click on login, I'm getting the login. I'm getting the username and password. I'm getting the login page again. Correct? Because when you enter the wrong username and password, what is happening? When you enter the wrong username and password, so it is going. The request is forwarded to the login servlet because this is the URL pattern. Correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Any questions still here?
No, Ram.
Okay, but
No, no.
I want please enter correct username and password on the screen. Correct? So now I can easily do that. So listen carefully. This is the new concept that I'm telling you. Please listen carefully. When someone enter the this particular page, this is what is sent back to the browser. But I want to send something else in the body tag pw.println pw.println. Please enter correct username. H2 tag. H2 tag is heading tag. Correct? Please enter correct username and password. I told about the H2 tag already. It's a heading tag. If you remember.
Yes.
Password. H2 tag is closed. And I can give instead of H2 tag, instead of heading tag, I can give bold tag. B means bold. The letters will be in the bold letters. Okay.
Ramji, even we can write strong.
Yeah, you can use strong also. You
Yeah.
can. There's so many things. Okay. So now, but this particular line should not go with every time. It should go only when the when there is a login failure. Correct? When the username and password is incorrect. So what I'll do here is in the validation servlet, whenever the validation is failed, before forwarding the request to the login page, before forwarding the request to login servlet, request dot set attribute. There is a method called set attribute. I can set some attributes in the request object. I can set some attributes in the request object. So I can set the attribute in the request object. I have to give the attribute name and I have to give the attribute value. So attribute name is so login failure, and attribute value is maybe please enter correct username and password. Okay, so now the same request object is forwarded to the login servlet. The same request object is forwarded to the login servlet. It's not a new request object. Whatever the request that is received by the validation servlet, the same request is forwarded to the login servlet. That's what I explained this morning. So request dispatcher will forward the same request. It will not create a new request, and this forward will happen on the server side. The client doesn't even know about it. Correct?
Yes.
So because the same request object is forwarded to the login servlet, I already set some attribute in the request object. Now I can get that attribute. In the login servlet. So when the same request object is forwarded to this login servlet, so this request object is containing that attribute. So now what I can do is I can say request dot get attribute, and I have to give the attribute name. When I give the attribute name, I'll get the attribute value. Correct? String some value, some value. Okay. So what is the attribute name you have to give? So you have to typecast it. It's returning object. You have to typecast to string. This get attribute is returning object. You have to typecast that to string. Okay.
Alright.
So what is the attribute name? What is the attribute name I gave?
Login failure.
This is the attribute name. So I have to give this in the login servlet. Okay. So now what I'll do is so whatever the value I'm getting, so whatever the value I'm getting here, that value I'm keeping it here. Okay. And this particular statement will be executed only if value not equal to null. The value not equal to null.
Okay.
Otherwise this particular statement will never be executed. So for example, for the first time when you're sending a request, that particular request does not have a attribute. Agreed?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the browser and this is the server, and inside the server this is the inner block is the application. Inside that application you have two servlets. So this is the first servlet is called login servlet. The second servlet is called validation servlet. Login servlet and validation servlet, right? The validation servlet is validating the request whether the username and password is correct or not. So what is the logic inside the validation servlet? The validation servlet is validating whether the username and password is correct or not. Agreed?
Yeah.
So if the validation is failure, if there is a validation failure, then what it is doing in the validation servlet? Suppose if the username is not Ramjan, password is not Java, then it is going to the else condition. There's a validation failure. Then it is forwarding this particular request object to the validation server, to the login servlet. The same request object is forwarded to the login servlet. So that's what I'm doing here. So when the request is sent to the when the request is sent by the client to the server, when the request is sent by the browser to the server, so now that request is sent to the login servlet. and because here inside the what login servlet then login servlet send the response back to browser. Login servlet send the response back to browser, and now you enter the username and password, and you send a new request. You send a new request to the validation servlet, and inside the validation servlet, when the validation is failed, then the same request object is forwarded to the login servlet. Correct?
Okay.
So this is the first request you're sending /login. Let me show you the first request. Let me show you the first request that you're sending. HTTP :localhost port number 8090 / first application / login. This is what you're sending /login. Then the request will go to the login servlet. Then the login servlet is sending the response. This is the response sent by the login servlet. Why this response is sent by the login servlet? Because when the request went to the login servlet, so it is printing, it is sending HTML, it is sending body, it is checking if value not equal to null. What is value here? So in the request object, whatever the request you sent, just now you sent, this is the request you're sending. This is the request you're sending. In this request, do you have a attribute called login failure?
No.
That request does not have a attribute called login failure. So this is the first request you're sending. In the first request, there is no attribute called login failure. Then for this request, because there is no attribute called login failure, so request.get attribute of login failure means it will give null, because there is no attribute with this name. There is no attribute with this name in the request object, so it is giving null. So if value is not equal to null, only this particular thing will be executed. Agreed?
Yeah.
So it means now it will not be executed. So only this particular portion will be executed now. So HTML is sent, body is sent, then all these things are sent back to the browser. So this is what you are receiving in the browser, correct? Now what you're sending? Now you're entering some username and you're entering some password. Now when you click on login, now the request will go to the validation servlet, because here your set action equal to validate. So the URL pattern will match to the validation servlet, correct?
Yes.
So in the validation servlet, whatever the request you're sending, that request has some parameters. It has a username parameter and it has a password parameter. So you are capturing those values and you're checking if they are equal or not. If they are not equal, it will go to the else block. In the else block, because you know that because in the else block it is coming to the else condition, means it is a failure. Otherwise, it will not come to the else condition, right? If this condition is successful, it will not come to the else condition, right?
Yes.
So the else condition, then whatever the request you receive to the validation servlet, so this is the first request sent to the login servlet, and login servlet send the response. You enter the username and password and click submit. Then the second request went to the validation servlet. Inside the validation servlet, the validations are happening. If the validation is failure, then you are forwarding the same request object to the login servlet. The client does not even know that. So that there is a request is forwarded to one more servlet. The client does not even know that, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So here it is setting the attribute in the request object, and it is forwarding the same request. It is forwarding the same request to the login servlet again. Now it goes to the login servlet's doGet method. Here it is checking what is the first. It is checking is if there is an attribute with this name. Now there is an attribute with this name because the same request is forwarded. That request already has an attribute, correct?
Yes.
So now we will get the value. Now this value is not equal to null, so it will print b value, correct? That what is there in the value, please enter correct username and password. That is there in the value, because this is the attribute name, that is the attribute value, you set in the servlet. This is the attribute value you set in the servlet, correct? When you say request.get attribute of this name, you will get this attribute value. That attribute value, you are catching it in this value variable, correct?
Yes.
Now you are just printing that, so you get additional thing. Now see what do you get when you click on login. You get please enter correct username and password. Did you understand how it is implemented? It means instead of writing the HTML, I have written a servlet. This servlet is sending the login page, and it's a dynamic, because it's a servlet. It can generate the dynamic web page. It can do some if and else conditions, and it can send whatever the response it want to send. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So in today's class, I told one concept called set attribute. You can set the attributes in the request object. You can set the attributes in the request object and get the attributes from that request object whenever you want.
Yes, Ramji.
Anyone else have any questions on this topic?
No, Ramji.
It's clear. Set attribute is clear for everyone.
Yes.
So Pavani, is it clear?
Yes, Ram.
Magna,
Yes, Ramji.
any questions on this? Are you going through the recordings?
I'm going through the recordings, but I didn't receive any recording. And if it is like I didn't attend the morning class due
Yeah,
to
I
network.
did not record the meeting this morning. I forgot to record the meeting. So you lost that recording. So what I'll do is I will try to find the recording from my previous batch students and I'll send the recording to you, whatever you missed this morning. Okay.
Okay, Ramji.
So, but the thing is, I did not find the time today to pull that, to find that particular recording. But tonight I'll spend time and I'll send the email to everyone.
Okay, Ramji.
Okay. So Nagini, any questions?
No, Ramji.
Okay, fine. And what about you, Raj?
No questions, Ramji.
100% clear, Arjun. So Arjun, you were talking about some approach in this morning. So did you understand this approach?
Yes.
So do you think it is neat and clear? It is neat and clean solution? Because I'm not repeating any logic. I'm just reusing the logic.
Yeah.
So I'm not
Yes.
this particular login phase logic. I'm not repeating it twice. It is there only once, correct?
Yeah.
So, for example, suppose if I use instead of forward, if I use response dot send redirect, because by this way also I can redirect the request from one servlet to other servlet, correct?
Yeah.
So what will it work or not?
It works, but like
Yes.
we will have like
Okay. So I want someone to explain the flow now. So Arjun, do you want to explain the flow now? What will happen from beginning?
uh, I can.
Try it. I will help you try it. So I want everyone to come forward and try it. I'm not expecting 100% answers from you. Will you try it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me first of all, when I enter slash login here, when I send the request to the server, what will happen? When I click on enter, what will happen? This request will go to the server, and how that request is handled, and who will handle the request, and what will happen on the server side? Tell me.
On the server side, the container will handle and it will redirect it to the login.html page.
Oh, once again. Did you
Yeah,
enter
as it is.
login.html here?
As it is, have the slash login, it will go to the what is that?
Yeah, you're right. The web container handles the request. Now the web container will go and check the web.xml, correct?
Yeah.
So web container will go and check the web.xml. It will see what is the URL pattern, correct?
Yeah, the slash login and it will go to that.
Okay, tell me first of all, you're sending one HTTP request. You're sending one HTTP request. What type of request it is? Is it a GET request or POST request?
Say get request.
Why it's a GET request?
We are like asking for it.
When I say localhost, port number 8090 slash first application slash login. I'm sending this request to server. What request is this? Is it a GET request or POST request? Can you please speak louder?
Get request as it is. We are asking for a new.
So I did not specify whether it's a GET request or POST request. I'm just entering the URL. I did not specify whether it's a GET request or POST request. When I did not specify, by default it is a GET request. That's what I told, correct?
Yes.
So by default it's a GET request. Now you are sending one GET request to the server. In the server, the web container will handle the request. It will check the web.xml and find the URL pattern. This is the URL pattern, and this is the matching servlet for that, because this URL pattern, for this URL pattern, this is the servlet name that is registered. For this servlet name, this is the servlet class that is registered, correct?
Yes.
So now this particular servlet class object will be created by the web container. Web container will create the object of this class, and on that object it will call the doGet method because it receives the GET request, correct?
Yes.
So Arjun, tell me now. So when the doGet method is called, what will happen? So when the doGet method is called, the container will pass the request object. The container will pass the response object to the doGet method. So it will create the request object. It will create the response object, correct? Arjun?
Yes.
Yes, Ramji.
So does the request object contain any parameters?
No.
Does the request object contain any para? This is the request I'm sending. Does this request, what is the request you're sending? For that request, the container is creating a request object. So are there any parameters in the request you're sending?
No.
No.
There are no parameters. So container will just create the request object. There are no parameters populated in the request object. And it also created a response object. Now those two objects are passed to the login serverless doGet method, correct?
Yes.
Now doGet method is called. What is there inside this doGet method, Arjun? Please speak out.
Like it will check for the if you are given the correct username and password, and
No, what
if
is the first line? What is the first line?
it's a request or get attribute login failure, it checks for that.
It will check is there any attribute in the request object with this name, correct?
Yeah.
So right now that request object is an empty object. That object does not contain any parameters. It does not contain any attributes. Agreed?
Yeah.
So there is no attribute with this name. Now what will you get?
HTML.
What will you get from this line? When you say get attribute, what is this method will return?
Null. Null only.
So this method will return null because there is no attribute with this name, correct?
Yeah.
So now the value variable, the variable value contains a null value, correct?
Yes.
So now it will, if value is not equal to null, then only this response is sent to the browser. So this particular response is not sent to the browser because value is null here. It is not equal to null means then only it will check, it will send. Otherwise it will not send that. So it will send only this HTML content, body content, and all this form, username, password, submit button, and form action equal to validate. Everything is sent back to the browser. Correct?
Yes.
I got it now. Correct or not?
Yeah.
So now when I say username is some username and password is some password, when I click on login, what will happen, Arjun? When I click on login, what will happen? Another request will be sent to the server or not?
Yes.
So
Ramji.
what is the request URL?
For the
For the second request, what is the request URL? Already the first request you sent to the server and you got the response. The request response cycle is completed. Now when you click on the login button, a second request will be sent to the server, correct or not?
yeah.
What is the request URL for that?
Validate.
Yeah, so it should be after first application / validate. After the context path, the validate will be added because when you click on the submit button, when you're submitting the form, you said that this is the action, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So Arjun, you have to concentrate here and you have to focus, you have to practice the recordings. Getting it?
Yes.
Otherwise it will not work out if you don't practice the things. I know that you are in the market now and you are appearing for the interviews. It doesn't mean that you should not follow the recordings.
Yeah. I'm following the recording. The
Yeah.
morning one I didn't see.
This
So
one I told long time, three classes ago. When you click
yeah,
on the
I've
submit button,
written
the
that.
action will be the whatever the action you specified, the request will be constructed based on that action. Correct?
Yeah.
So now when I click on login, okay. Actually, the action is constructed. When I click on login, /validate is constructed, and the you're sending some parameters, username and password parameters along with the request. And when the request goes to the server will go and check the web.xml. It will find the validation. This is the matching servlet for this particular URL pattern. Correct? Correct or
Yes.
not?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
validation servlet do get method will be called because you're sending a get request. Agreed? Because you're sending method equal to get. When you submit this form, action equal to validate and method equal to get. So it is sending a get request for the validate as a URL pattern. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
The second request is, see, I think so many people are confused. This is the first request I'm sending. This is the first request I'm sending. This is the first request, right? So for this request, I got the login page back as a response. Now I enter the username and password and click on submit. When I click on submit, a second request is going to the server, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Something like this. So this is the second request that is going to the server, agreed?
Yes.
Because you're sending the parameters along with the request. When you submit the form, all the request parameters, what are the parameters there in the form, those parameters will go as part of the request, correct?
Yes.
Agreed, Arjun. Especially I'm asking you.
Yeah.
Any
Agreed.
questions here for the second
No.
request?
No.
So when the second request goes to the server, what will happen in the server? Who will handle this request? When the request is sent to the server, there must be some request handler, right? Who handles the request? Who will handle the request? Arjun.
Yes.
Who will handle the request on the server when you send the request to the server?
The web container only.
Yeah, web container. What is the confusion there?
Oh,
Whenever you send a request to the server, the web container handles the request, correct?
yes. Yes.
So for the first request also web container handles the request. For the second request also web container handles the request. For every request that is going to the server, the web container will handle the request, correct?
Yeah.
So now the second request is sent to the server. Web container will handle the request. How it will handle? It will go and refer the web.xml, correct?
Yes.
So it will check the URL pattern. Agreed?
Yeah.
What is the URL pattern here?
Validate.
So what is the servlet for this validate? What is
The
the matching servlet for this
validate
huh?
validate class. Validate servlet. Validation servlet.
This is the servlet class because this is the name for this URL pattern. For this name, this is the class. So this particular class will be identified as a matching servlet. Now what will happen? In the validation servlet, do get method will be called, correct?
Yes.
Why do get method will be called?
Because it is default. It's not
It's not
specified.
default, John. It's not default. We
When
are
not
when
specified.
you submit the request. When you submit the request, so this is the URL that is constructed, right? And you said it's a method equal to get. It's a get request.
Okay. Yeah.
When you submit the form, the URL will be constructed /validate. And the request is a get request. Agreed?
Yeah. Agreed.
So now the validation servlet do get method will be called. What is happening in the validation servlet do get method? Tell me. Make it fast, Arjun. I don't have time. So tell me now, when the do get method is called, the request object will be created by the container, response object will be created by the container, and those two objects are passed to this method, correct?
Yes.
So what in the request object, this is the second request object, because this is the second request I'm sending.
Yeah.
The first request is already sent. The first request
Login.
object, the first response object are already created, and the response already sent back to the browser. Now you're sending a second request. For the second request, the second request object will be created by the container, right?
Yes.
So in that object, are there any parameters? Yes, the container will set the parameters in the object, correct?
Yeah.
Is everyone following?
Yes, Ramji.
So this is the second request object and second response object, right? Someone has some questions?
No.
If anyone have questions, please speak out now. I don't have time. I'm telling you again. I have to stop this class in 5 minutes. Speak out now if you have any questions.
No questions, Ramji.
Yeah. Someone is speaking.
No questions, Ramji.
Okay. So now in the request object there is a parameter with the name username, correct? In the second request,
Yes.
the second request you are sending, the second request there is a parameter with the username, correct?
Yes.
Yes, Ramji.
So in the username, what is the value you get? Username equal to what are the value you sent. This is the value you sent, correct?
Yes.
So that value you get it. And when you say requested get parameter of password, you'll get the password value. What is the password value? This is the password value, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So now this if condition will be failed, correct? It
Yes.
will go to the else condition, correct?
Yeah.
Because username is not Ramji and password is not Java. So because username is something else and password is something else. So it will go to the else condition, agreed or not?
Yes.
Now in this, you're setting the attribute in the request object. Now you're redirecting to login. What will happen when you redirect to login?
It goes to the login service.
Again.
The response will go to the browser. Did you people understand or not? When I say redirect, the response will go to the browser. Browser will send a new request to the login servlet, correct?
Yes.
Browser will send a new request. The request is not forwarded on the server side. It's not request dispatched at forward. I'm not forwarding the request on the server side. Morning I told this clearly for 1.5 or 2 hours class. So when you send the request to the validation servlet is sending the response back to the browser. Now browser will send a new request to the login servlet, correct?
Yes. Yes, Ramji.
This is the third request. It is going to the server. It's not the second. For the second request, you already got the response. Now the browser is sending a third request, correct?
Yes.
So then the third request object will be created. When the login servlet is called, this third request object is passed to this request variable. Third response object will be passed to the response variable, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Ramji.
So does the third request object has an attribute called login failure?
Yes, Ramji.
This is the second request object. This is not the third request object. In the second request object, you have an attribute. Now, when you send the response back to the browser, browser is sending a new request. The old request is gone. Getting it? For the old request, the response already sent. For the second request, the response already sent. Now, browser is sending a new request. That is the third request, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
In the second request object, you set the attribute, not in the third request object, right? That's a new request object that is created now. Because browser is sending a new request. In the earlier case, the same request object is forwarded to the another servlet on the server side. But here, a new request is coming to the server again. I don't know whether you understood or not. If you remain calm, I'll stop this class right away.
Yes, Ramji, we understood.
I don't know whether you understood or not if you don't speak out. Is everyone understanding what is happening here? So when the validation servlet send the response back to browser, browser is sending a new request. This is a new request is sending to the login because it's a redirect. It's not the forward. Earlier it is forward. So forward means it is just forwarding this request, same request object to the login servlet on the server side. Client is not sending a new request, correct?
Yes.
Yes, Ramji.
So now in the third request object, do you have, this is the third request object, do you have attribute name login failure? No. So you will have null, you will get null again. So it is not equal to null. So you don't get this thing again, correct?
Yes.
When I enter something, when I enter some wrong value, I'm not getting please enter correct username and password. I'm not getting that. I'm just getting username and password because the if condition is not executed because it is redirect. It means for this requirement, redirect will not work. For this requirement, forward will work. Correct?
Yes.
Ramji.
Yes.
So I hope everyone understood when to use redirect and when to use forward and what is the main difference between redirect and forward.
Yes, Ramji.
Forward
Ramji.
means the request will be forwarded on the server side. The client doesn't even know that. The same request will be forwarded on the server side. But in the redirect, the server will send a response back to the client and client will send a new request to the server. Okay, so that's all I want to talk about it now. So if you don't understand it, I can't help it because you're not asking the questions. Tomorrow I'll start a new topic. Bye everyone. So tomorrow morning class at 10 o'clock Eastern time again, 8 a.m. Eastern time again. Okay, bye.
Okay.
Thank you, Ramji. Bye, everyone.